You know that feeling. It's a quiet Sunday morning. The house is still. You're sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, and you finally open that envelope you've been avoiding. It's your 401k statement. Your heart beats just a little bit faster as you unfold the paper. You see the numbers, the result of decades of your hard work, of waking up before the sun, of staying late when you were needed, of missing a school play here and there, always with the promise that you were building a better future for your family. That number on the page represents that promise. It represents security. It represents a retirement where you are independent, not a burden, a future where you can enjoy your golden years with dignity. But lately, as you look at that number, there's a question that lingers long after you've put the paper down, a cold knot of anxiety in the pit of your stomach. Is this money really safe? Is that number on the page just an illusion? I'm here to tell you that feeling in your gut is not wrong. It's your intuition screaming a warning that very few people are willing to talk about. We're all told the same story. The market goes up, the market goes down. Don't panic. Just ride it out. Stay the course. But what if the biggest threat to your retirement isn't a typical market correction? What if the rules of the entire game have changed? What if forces far beyond Wall Street are making decisions that could wipe out a significant portion of your savings, no matter how well diversified you think you are? What if I told you that your life savings have become a pawn in a global chess game, a game being played in the halls of power in Washington and Beijing with very real consequences for your family and your future? This is not another video about stock tips or market predictions. This is about survival. This is about understanding the new reality we live in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the economic war between the United States and China. I will show you, in simple, clear terms, how their conflict has become your problem. I will connect the dots between their political maneuvers and the very real numbers in your retirement account. I'm going to explain how their war is being fought in your wallet, in your savings account, and for the future of your retirement. Because the truth is, the economic war between the US and China has fundamentally changed the rules of retirement. Your financial security no longer just depends on saving money and investing wisely. It now depends on actively shielding your wealth from the crossfire of a global power struggle. The old mindset of being a passive saver who trusts the system is no longer enough. You now have to become an active defender of your wealth, and that defense begins with knowledge. The financial battlefield, why your money is in the crossfire, America's national credit card. To understand why your money is at risk, we first need to understand a very simple but very big concept, the U.S. national debt. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but I want you to think about it in a way that relates to your own family. Imagine your household budget. If you consistently spend more money than you earn, you have two choices. You either cut back your spending or you borrow money to cover the difference, usually with a credit card. For the last several decades, the United States government has been doing exactly that. It has been spending trillions more than it collects in taxes, and to cover that shortfall, it issues debt in the form of U.S. Treasury bonds. This is our national credit card. Now, every family knows that if you're going to live on credit cards, you need someone willing to lend you the money. For a very long time, one of the biggest and most reliable lenders to the United States has been China. For years, this was a relationship that seemed to work for both sides. China would manufacture goods, sell them to us, and then take the dollars they earned and use them to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. This kept their currency from getting too strong, which made their exports cheap. And for America, it meant we had a ready and willing buyer for our debt, which helped keep our interest rates low. It was a delicate balance. America needed China's money to fund our spending, and China needed the American consumer to buy their goods. But that balance is now broken. And the battlefield where this break is happening is where your financial security is being caught in the crossfire. The first punch. Tariffs. The first major blow to this delicate balance came in the form of tariffs. Again, let's keep it simple. A tariff is just a tax on goods imported from another country. When the U.S. government placed massive tariffs on Chinese goods, it was like putting up a giant wall of fees. Imagine you own a store, and your biggest and best customer walks in one day, and you tell them, from now on, everything you buy from me will have an extra 25% fee attached. What do you think that customer is going to do? They're going to be angry, and they're going to start looking for other stores to shop at. That's exactly what happened. These tariffs were meant to punish China and bring manufacturing jobs back to America. But they also hit hardworking Americans. Farmers in the Midwest suddenly found that their biggest buyer for soybeans, China, was no longer buying. Manufacturers who relied on Chinese parts for their machinery saw their costs skyrocket. But the most dangerous consequence wasn't the price of soybeans or tractor parts. It was how China decided to punch back. The counterpunch. Dumping debt. If the United States was going to use trade as a weapon, China decided it would use America's addiction to debt as its own weapon. China began to slowly but surely reduce its holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. Let's go back to our credit card analogy. This is like your biggest lender, the one who holds most of your credit card debt, calling you up and saying, not only am I not going to lend you any more money, but I'm thinking about selling the debt you already owe me to someone else. This creates an immediate crisis of confidence. If your biggest lender is getting nervous, shouldn't everyone else be nervous too? And this isn't a small amount of money we're talking about. According to the U.S. Treasury Department's own data for early 2025, China still holds over $750 billion of our debt. That's down from a peak of over $1.3 trillion about a decade ago. The trend is undeniable. They are slowly, methodically backing away. When the largest foreign holder of your debt starts selling, it sends a powerful signal to the rest of the world. It says that holding U.S. debt may not be as safe as it once was. This creates a chain reaction. It forces the U.S. government to find new buyers for its debt. And to attract those new buyers, it often has to offer higher interest rates. This is the battlefield, a trade war that has escalated into a debt war. But the bombs being dropped in this war don't land in Washington or Beijing. They land directly in your wallet. Collateral damage, how their war hits your wallet. This is the most important part of our conversation today. This is where we connect the headlines you see on the news to the numbers you see on your retirement statement. Because you and I and every other hardworking American are the collateral damage in this economic war. And the damage comes in three distinct forms. The inflation machine, the invisible thief in your pocket. The first and most immediate consequence is one you are already feeling every single day. Inflation. Let me draw a very clear line for you, showing how a political decision in Beijing ends up costing you more at the grocery store. It's a simple domino effect. Domino 1. China and other foreign countries slow down their purchases of U.S. debt, but the U.S. government still needs to borrow trillions of dollars to pay its bills. So who steps in to buy that debt when foreigners won't? Domino 2. The Federal Reserve, America's central bank. Now, where does the Federal Reserve get the money to buy all these treasury bonds? This is the critical part. It doesn't. It creates the money out of thin air. This process has a fancy name, Quantitative Easing, or QE. But all it really means is that the Fed is pumping massive amounts of new dollars into the financial system to buy up the government's debt. Domino 3. The value of every dollar you have saved goes down. It's a fundamental law of supply and demand. When there is a massive new supply of something, its value decreases. Think of it like this. Imagine you're making a big pot of soup for your family. If you suddenly pour a gallon of water into it, you still have a full pot. But the soup is now thin, watery, and far less nourishing. That's what quantitative easing does to our money supply. It waters down the value of every dollar in your bank account, in your wallet, and in your 401k. This is not a theory. This is reality. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the official inflation rate as of August 2025 was 2.9%. But we all know the real story. The price of a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, a tank of gasoline. These things have risen far more than that. This is the invisible thief. This is the silent tax that politicians never have to vote on. It's the direct result of a system where our government spends too much and the Federal Reserve prints money to cover it up. The economic war with China has only put this machine into overdrive. Every time they sell our debt, the pressure on the Fed to create more money increases. And every time they do, the purchasing power of your hard-earned savings is stolen away. The 401k roller coaster, destroying your retirement dreams. The second way this war hits you is through the gut-wrenching volatility of the stock market. If there's one thing the stock market hates more than anything else, it's uncertainty. And this ongoing economic conflict between the two largest economies in the world is the single greatest source of financial uncertainty on the planet. Think about it. One tweet about new tariffs can send the Dow Jones tumbling 500 points. One headline about China selling off another block of treasury bonds can create panic across global markets. For a young person in their 20s or 30s, this volatility is just noise. They have decades to recover. But for you, if you are in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, this volatility is a direct threat to your entire retirement plan. There's a concept in financial planning called sequence of returns risk. It sounds complicated, but it's a simple and terrifying idea. It means that when you get your investment returns matters just as much as how much you get. Let me give you a quick example. Imagine two people, Bob and Sue, both retire on the same day with a $1 million 401k. In his very first year of retirement, the market crashes by 20% due to a flare-up in the U.S.-China trade war. Bob loses $200,000, and on top of that, he has to withdraw $40,000 to live on. In her first year, the market goes up by 20%. Sue makes $200,000 and withdraws her $40,000. Now, even if the market completely recovers and they both average the same return over the next 20 years, Bob's portfolio will likely never catch up. That early massive loss, combined with his withdrawals, created a hole that is almost impossible to dig out of. Bob could run out of money. Sue will likely be fine. This is sequence of returns risk, and the constant threat of the U.S.-China economic war has put this risk on a hair trigger for millions of Americans who are at or near retirement. Your 401k statement becomes a source of anxiety, not security. You're forced to watch the wealth you spent a lifetime building swing wildly based on political games being played thousands of miles away. This isn't the retirement you were promised. This isn't the stability you worked so hard for. The future bill, higher taxes, and broken promises. The third and final consequence is the one that will affect not just you, but your children and grandchildren as well. It's the bill for this economic war that will eventually come due. As we discussed, when there are fewer foreign buyers for our debt, the U.S. government has to pay higher interest rates to attract the buyers that are left. Right now, according to the U.S. Treasury, the interest payment on our national debt is already one of the largest expenses in the federal budget. It's projected to become the single largest expense within the next decade, surpassing even military spending and Social Security. Think about that. We will soon be spending more money just paying interest on our past borrowing than on anything else. When that happens, the government will be backed into a corner, and it will have only two politically painful options. Option one, raise taxes. And who do you think they will come after? They will come after the middle class. They will come after your retirement income. They will come after your estate when you pass it on to your children. Option two, cut spending. And what are the biggest items on the budget? Social Security, Medicare, the very programs that millions of hardworking Americans have paid into their entire lives, with the promise that they would be there for them in their old age. Suddenly, those promises become fragile. The conversation in Washington shifts from how do we protect these programs to how do we cut them to keep the country from going bankrupt. This is the inevitable result of this path. Higher taxes on your income and potential cuts to the benefits you are counting on to survive. This is the future bill for the economic war being fought today. And the inflation we see at the grocery store is just the beginning. The most important thing you can do now is understand which assets can act as a shield. In our next video, we break down the 5 specific types of assets that historically perform well during times of high inflation. You can click the link on screen to watch it now. The financial bunker. I know that everything I've just laid out is unsettling. It's deeply concerning. It can make you feel powerless, like you're just a leaf in a hurricane. But my goal today is not to scare you. My mission is to prepare you, because knowledge is the first line of defense. Understanding the battlefield is the first step toward building a defense for your family's future. So now, let's talk about building your financial bunker. I am not a financial advisor, and I cannot give you personalized financial advice. What I can do is share with you some timeless, fundamental principles of wealth protection that have proven effective throughout history, especially in times of great uncertainty like the one we are living through now. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. These are get-safe and stay-safe principles. Own what is real. The first principle is to own things that cannot be created out of thin air. In a world where governments can print trillions of dollars with a keystroke, real tangible assets become a safe harbor. This includes things like physical gold and silver, which have been recognized as a store of value for over 5,000 years. It can also include productive land or income-producing real estate. The common theme is that these are hard assets. Their supply is limited. They can't be devalued by a central bank's printing press. They provide a solid foundation when the paper money system is shaking. Become your own banker by eliminating debt. The second principle is to reduce and eliminate debt, especially high-interest, variable-rate debt like credit cards. In a high-inflation environment, debt can be a crushing weight. The less you owe to others, the more control you have over your own life. When you are debt-free, you are sovereign. You are not beholden to a bank or a credit card company. Your income is your own. This gives you flexibility and resilience to weather any economic storm. The less you owe, the less vulnerable you are. True diversification. The third and final principle is to understand what true diversification means. For years, we've been told that diversification means owning a mix of stocks and bonds. But in the world we're entering, where the actions of governments can impact both stocks and bonds simultaneously, that may not be enough. True diversification means spreading your wealth across different asset classes, different countries, and even different currencies. It means not having all of your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket is showing cracks in its foundation. It's about building a financial ark, not just a single boat, so that if one part springs a leak, the entire structure doesn't sink. These are just principles. They are a starting point for your own research and conversations with your own trusted financial professionals. But they are rooted in a fundamental shift in mindset. The world has changed. The post-World War II era of American economic dominance and relative stability is coming to an end. The old rules of just putting money in a 401k and hoping for the best are no longer sufficient. The economic war between the US and China means we have all been drafted onto a financial battlefield, whether we like it or not. And on this battlefield, we must shift our mindset. We must move from being passive savers to being active defenders of our family's future. This is the new reality, and it leads me to one final critical question for you. As you look at the next 5 years, as you consider all the uncertainty we've talked about today, what is your single biggest fear when it comes to your own financial security? Is it inflation eating away your savings? Is it a stock market crash wiping out your 401k? Or is it something else, something even more personal? Let me know in the comments below. Your story matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. Thank you for your time.